Hey there, welcome to another C64 play guide and review. In this week's episode we'll be checking out Donkey Kong Jr., developed by Mr. Sid of Mega Designs Incorporated and released to the CSGB website on the 8th of November 2014. The game opens with a very nicely drawn title screen with the artists credited, and by pressing fire we enter the main title screen where we can select the difficulty mode, standard, advanced or expert, and either one or a two-player alternative game. Let's just try the one-player mode for this, and let's press fire and check this game out. Donkey Kong Jr. first appeared in the arcades in 1982 and released by Nintendo, and this game was released in 2014 and is a conversion of the Atari 7800 version, published by Atari in 1988. In this game we play as Donkey Kong Jr. and it's our job to release our father Donkey Kong, who has been imprisoned by the evil Mario. If you remember from the first game, our task was to rescue Pauline from Donkey Kong, and Mario has then captured Donkey Kong and imprisoned him for that escapade, and so it's our job to rescue our father. And you can see Mario in the top corner is throwing out enemies, and if we touch one of those enemies we'll lose a life, and we start out with only a few lives, but they can be gained at score checkpoints. This conversion features all 4 levels from the original arcade version, minus 1 or 2 of the intro animations you may notice, but the actual level design itself is pretty much the same. You may notice that the main sprite moves slightly slower than the arcade original, and that's because this sprite has more weight behind him, and again this is based on the Atari 7800 version, which was very slightly different from the arcade itself. You can see very colourful graphics, very smart sound effects, and this game is really not easy and requires tricky timing. Just like the arcade and all the other conversions, one of which appeared on the ColecoVision, this game requires us to memorise the pattern, and once we have done so, all we need to do is make our way from the bottom to the top. And as soon as we touch our father's cage, you can see a key there. As soon as we touch that cage, that's the level over. So let's just observe the timing and complete level 2. The third level is perhaps one of the trickiest of the 4, and here we have to avoid aliens which move across the floor, and they remind me of electric shocks. So as long as you don't touch the pulse of the electric shock, you should be fine. And there are fruits dotted around. One contact with that fruit will launch it down the screen, and if that touches an alien then it dies. But you can see Mario is still incessantly throwing those things down from the top of the screen, and so the object of this game is simply to survive as long as possible, and of course getting to the next screen means more score and more progress. Let's see if we can observe that timing, and let's see if we can turn that into reality. You may be surprised to know that this is actually a live play that I recorded whilst this game was being played in the Lemon C64 competition. This was played this year and was enjoyed by everybody involved. And this is as far as I got with this game, unfortunately. I'm not very good with it. The fourth and the last level sees us on chains, and we have to climb those chains and move the key symbols all the way to the top of the screen. Once all the keys are in place, then that's Donkey Kong freed, and Donkey Kong Jr. can celebrate by returning back to level 1. You can hear some music is also on this level, and that reminds us of the great feel and the atmosphere of the original version. You can see we can move 2 items 2 at a time, and that means this level isn't very hard. It's just that the player has to memorize the progress of those critters. One contact with those is a life over. You can see this game is very nicely animated. With the sound effects and the music, it gives us a great arcade feel, and the controls are great, and the player can even feel the weight of their Donkey Kong Jr. lumbering around this level. And so there is nothing wrong with the controls, the sound, the playability, or the gameplay. And from the title screen we can even select standard, hard, or even harder mode, and so there is longevity in this game. The game will carry on looping forever, but the levels do get slightly harder, in fact significantly harder, as you will see on the next level. So let's just try and avoid those critters and those snapping alligator mouths, and move the last key into position, hopefully without getting ourselves killed. It's very easy to do that in this game. This game was coded by Andreas Varga, otherwise known as Mr. Sid, of Mega Design Incorporated. And he's most famous for converting Prince of Persia to the C64 in 2011, which he disassembled from the PC-DOS version, and by notes from the original Apple II release. Prince of Persia got 88% on lemonc64.com, and this is his second major project on the C64. The graphics were drawn from scratch by Stephen Day, otherwise known as Stee86, and he created many title screens for Codemasters games, including Super Stuntman and Codemasters ATV Simulator. He went on to the Ball game in 1991 and created the graphics for Pick and Pile, released by Ubisoft on the C64 in 1991. The music is credited to Mikkel Hastrup, otherwise known as Encore, and he is also famous for coding the conversion of Frantic Freddy, a conversion of the ColecoVision 1983 game on the C64. After a long development process, this game was released on the 8th of November 2014 on the Commodore Scene database website known as CSDB. There was also an easy flash cartridge version of this game, and I'm playing the cartridge version right now. It cuts down the loading to a minimum, and cartridges on the C64 were always great. I didn't have too many of those in the day, but right now we can enjoy cartridge versions of many games on the C64. And on the 64 you can see I'm trying to avoid all these flying menaces. It's not hard, but you can see the timing has sped up on this second trip, on this second world, and of course timing is the art of this game. I think this game stands up as a solid conversion of the original, and even though there are no scores or ratings for this game, not even a page on Lemon C64, I personally give this game 9 out of 10. I think the introduction animations from the arcade were great, and it's a shame to see those missed out, but apart from that, the level design itself is solid, and you can see if you make a mistake, then that's the player's own fault. Things like extra credits for jumping over enemies gives you 100 points, and in the Lemon competition this is as far as I got, so I'm trying my best to hit those things, and unfortunately not. I died. And that means we are reset to try this level all over again. Thank you for viewing another Lemon 64 Playguide and review.